Okie dokie. We're going to enhance our person pager and paginated lists and editing to we found a better way to handle our duplicate records so that we don't have to write a lot of code for checking duplicate emails. So we're going to enhance it to deal with it on an exception basis via Hibernate. Okay, so the steps that we're going to have to go through to do that, which I have actually in here somewhere. So I saved them here in this Readme. I'm going to start keeping a Readme of different, steps that we can do things. So this one is handling unique constraints, and in our person code we had to do maybe a little bit more in that. We had to go back one more step because we didn't have a custom method, but most of the other code does. But we're going to talk through that now, and I'll show you what the code looks like, and then we'll demo the actual implementation of it. So okay, so if we go back here, we're going to create a save person method in our DAO, in our interface. And of course when we do that, we also have to add that save person in our actual DAO Hibernate class that implements that interface. The trick here is, if you look at the actual generic code, all it's doing is a merge with the object. In order to get, like the comment says here, in order to get it to throw the exception, we need to actually run a save or update and then flush the cache so that it actually forces the update to occur, and that's how we're going to get the exception to get thrown. Now we're not catching the actual exception here, we're just going to let it fail in here, and we're going to catch it on the front end in the actual manager. So once again, we have to go into our manager interface and create our save person method, and here is where we're going to say it actually throws our duplicate record exception. Okay, so what I did was I created a new exception package for our company, and it's called duplicate record exception. So we're going to keep that here, and we can of course enhance this if we want to. We might be able to create a record handling exception class and then chain these exceptions if we so desire, but right now I'm just creating this. And if you dig around through the Appfuse code, Appfuse is already doing this for the user code. When you add a new user, he's checking for emails and he throws a couple of exceptions in there, the Appfuse guys do. So I took a lesson from that and implemented my own way of handling it. I didn't particularly care for having the exception classes buried in the services, so I created a separate package to handle the company's exception classes. It's just whether or not you like a neat sock drawer. So let's get back to this. So we have our person DAO, we created our save person, and this is the code that we that is required in order to get that exception to throw. So, and then we have our person manager, where we're actually going to define it so that it's throwing that exception. Now in our person manager method, what we're doing here for our save person method in the person manager implementation of our interface is we're going to call that DAO, and you see here we're actually going to catch these exceptions. Okay, and then we're just going to rethrow it back in to what will most likely be our action class. Okay, so if we go into the action class, and in the first couple of videos we had coded our own duplicate checker. Okay, and this could get annoying if you had to do this for a lot of different records. So the best way to handle it was to just comment this out. Of course, we're still using the validation code to validate the other fields, but we're no longer using it to check for unique constraints. So what we did here is we go back over to our grid edit person function or method that we're using in struts. Our struts action is we're going to go ahead and continue to validate the record, and of course if we don't get success back from the validation, we're going to take whatever message we get back from that and return. And this, if you remember, this was where we were coding the after submit method to check for our errors. Okay, so now if we're good here and we validated and we pass the validation on the regular fields, now we're going to try and save the person, and here is where we're going to have to catch that duplicate record exception. Okay, so now if we get the duplicate record exception, when we throw it, in our implementation here, you see we're saying person get email already exists. So the email address is going to show up in the message, and it's going to look really nice with these little ticks around it, and it's going to say already exists. And what we're doing in our action class is we're just using that message to pass into our grid operation error message. Okay, and if we don't catch this exception and get out of here, we're going to return with our regular message here. We're going to just set our message and return success, and then our list class JavaScript error handler will take a look at it. So let's go take a look at our list class. I forgot to bring it up here, or our list JSP. Okay, so here's our list JSP. Here's our after submit method. And you see here, if we don't have the person saved, we're going to do what we were doing in the previous ones for showing the duplicate email message. Okay, so except now the only difference here really is that we had to add a custom save method to our DAO, Hibernate, our manager interface, and our manager implementation. And then in our action class, we have to catch that exception and take the message from the exception and put it on our page. That's really what we're doing here. So those were the changes we had to make in a nutshell. Okay, so let's see, we already have a Tomcat running, so let's just we've already deployed this, so I think we're good to go. Okay, so here's our person. We'll just run another list again. Here's our person. Here's our dupe checker guy. So we're going to create another dupe checker. Okay, the names, of course, can be duplicate. So John Smith, so we'll create another dupe checker, and then what we'll try to do is use an email address that we know is already there, and now we'll submit the record. Okay, and there we have our nice little message. If you look at our Tomcat log, you'll see we caught an exception. The exception got logged. It'd be nice if we could make that go away, but I couldn't. I tried a couple things and couldn't. So that's certainly not at the top of my list right now. So but this was certainly a much cleaner way of dealing with unique constraints as far as Hibernate's concerned. So, and certainly as far as the coding we would have to do to validate, because we might have a situation where a constraint can have more than one key, and we don't want to have to keep coding those things. So this was certainly the better way to do it, and well, I like it better. So that was the enhancement we had to made to our person code to get all this to fly nicely. And the message is certainly nicer, and the code is certainly a lot cleaner. So that's how we did it, and this was a quick video just to demonstrate how we do unique constraint checking, an easier way to do it. See y'all.